This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom. The Ministry of Health and Wellness is reporting that an additional 15 people have recovered from COVID-19. The Health Ministry says the total number of patients now recovered and released from care is 584. Meanwhile, Jamaica has seen an increase in COVID-19 cases by 4. This brings the country's total confirmed cases to 732. The new cases consist of 1 male and 3 females with ages ranging from 1 to 59 years. 3 cases are imported, having arrived recently on flights from the USA. 2 have addresses of residents in Kingston and St. Andrew, and 1 in Westmoreland. The 4th person, who resides in St. James, is a contact of an import-related case. I know many of you feel that the pandemic is over. That is not the case. Those words from Prime Minister Andrew Holness as he addressed recent incidents of persons disobeying COVID-19 safety protocols.
I know many of you feel that the pandemic is over. That is not the case. I see a lot of people flocking to the beaches and to the rivers, and I'm even told that people are having parties. I understand. Summertime is hot. You have been told to stay at home now for almost 3 months. The psychology of that can be a little bit disconcerting. People are now fatigued and want to have a little freedom to go about. Inevitably, eventually, we will return to full normality. But the truth is that it won't be normal as how you knew it before.
The Prime Minister underscored the point that masks, sanitizers and social distancing will become the norm in society. He praised the residents of Anato Bay for their cooperation in the government's efforts to curtail the spread of COVID-19. Prime Minister Holness was speaking at the Hope Social Housing Handover Ceremony in Anato Bay, St. Mary recently. Several changes will be made to Jamaica's COVID-19 protocols due to the anticipated increase in the number of people arriving at the island's airports. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Mackenzie announced the changes in a recent press briefing at the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
One of the changes that you will see is that you will not be tested at the airport, and you will go home and you will go on the JAAA COVID app and you will make an appointment for testing. This is for our returning Jamaicans. So we're asking you to ensure that you do that. When you go home, make an appointment. If you are not able to use your phone, you can call the health department to set that appointment for testing. And we want you to try to do that testing within 24 to 48 hours of your coming back to Jamaica.
Dr. Mackenzie says the test results have been slowed due to the volume being dealt with and is advising persons awaiting test results to stay at home and adhere to all the safety protocols. The CMO also says that the ministry is moving to use an app for home monitoring.
Right now we're using the app for the geofencing, where they get the calls to ensure that they're in the right location. But right now you will get calls from the health department to check on your temperature and if you're having any symptoms, and persons from the health department will visit.
A decision will be reportedly arrived at today, Monday, July 6, about the closure of Devon House. Devon House, which is home to a number of courtyard shops, has been ordered to close its gates until the government is satisfied that the facility is complying with gathering rules under the disaster risk management orders. Minister of Local Government and Community Development Desmond Mackenzie notes the staging of a party at the location Friday night, which was shared on social media. Mackenzie says videos from the party showed a clear breach of the disaster risk management orders, which do not currently allow for the staging of entertainment events. In a statement posted on its Instagram page, Reggae Mill Bar notes that it was not operating in violation of the law. The statement reads, quote, "It has come to our attention that certain individuals have mistakenly referred to our Friday happy hour as Fridays at the Devon, which was held at our location pre-COVID-19. Our happy hour is available every day from 4 to 8 p.m. end quote. The statement adds, quote, "We are observing all regulations and protocols in terms of sanitizing, temperature taking, and capacity limits. All persons must arrive and enter wearing a mask. Once inside, it is their choice of removing the masks, as they must drink and eat," end quote. Minister Mackenzie says other restaurants and bars are under investigation for operating as party and clubbing venues and warned that violations could jeopardize the timed reopening of the entertainment sector. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says holding a general election is not on the agenda at this time. He says his mind is on economic recovery as the country's fiscal and social development has taken a hit due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
There are many Jamaicans who are out of work. It's as if the economic crisis has not come home to them as yet. It has come home to me.
A floral tribute was held at the monument honoring the late national hero, the Right Excellent Norman Manley, at National Heroes Park on July 4 in celebration of the 127th anniversary for Mr. Manley's birth. Marlon Samuels has more in this report.
Born July 4, 1893, Norman Washington Manley attended Jamaica College. He was awarded a Rhodes Scholarship and became one of Jamaica's top lawyers in the 1920s.
When I was very young, I delighted in argument, and exasperated relatives would say, "You better become a lawyer, buzz off." And then after the war, I nearly gave it up. It took about a month to decide whether I really would do law or not, and finally decided that I would. You might like to know what I was thinking of doing instead. Answer: forestry.
In 1935, there was spontaneous labor unrest in Jamaica. Things came to a head in 1938. Mr. Manley identified with the workers.
The most important event was the thing that started it all. When the waterfront went out on strike, the police interfered in a tactless way. Bustamante intervened in a tactful way from his point of view, and that set off a chain reaction, exactly like an atomic bomb. It spread in 4 hours, it spread into every corner of Kingston and St. Andrews. Every single institution went on strike. Every factory, every enterprise. Shops were closed, tramcars stopped running. In thousands of cases, domestic servants stopped cleaning the pots and pans and said, "I've gone on strike too." The second most important event, and I'm talking now of the events which built up the year into what it subsequently became, was the fact that the government, in a panic, on the second day, arrested Bustamante, and partly because I saw the masses without leadership, and partly because I had my own ideas as to what should be done, I intervened that night by offering myself as a representative of all striking groups anywhere in Jamaica. Following on that, and on the same day that that was announced, I persuaded the governor to set up a commission to inquire into all grievances by all groups on strike and to recommend how the grievances should be dealt with, and to try and negotiate wages for everybody, new wage conditions. It was a sort of universal, all-Jamaican arbitration tribunal. And the third most important thing was that soon after that tribunal got to work, I succeeded in getting Bustamante released by myself going into court and giving evidence in his favor. And consequent on all those things, we were able, Bustamante and I, to work together with that commission from one end of Jamaica to the other, pacifying striking groups, representing striking groups, acting in every way possible to bring something positively good out of the chaos that prevailed. And it can be said that at the end of 3 months, the average wages for all Jamaica had been increased 20%. And I think it must be almost unique in history that an event of that sort has resulted in positive good for the masses.
In that same year, Norman Manley co-founded the People's National Party. He led the PNP in every election from 1944 to 1967. He served as colony's chief minister from 1955 to 1959 and as premier from 1959 to 1962. Several persons placed floral tributes at the monument erected to honor Norman Manley at the National Heroes Park in Kingston, including his grandson Joseph Manley. The monument contains 12 pillars, arranged in 2 concentric circles. The inner pillars are higher than the outer ones. Each pillar is connected to its corresponding outer pillar by a horizontal member. Mr. Manley's tomb is located at the center, topped by a 6-pointed star. Each pair of pillars is said to represent an aspect of Mr. Manley's life. The monument features 2 statues, a male and a female. They symbolize the birth of a unified nation. Joseph Manley took the time to place a single flower on the headstone of his grandmother, Edna Manley.
As we observe with this floral tribute, the 127th anniversary of his birth, we must recall that Norman Manley spent the majority of his adult life unselfishly advocating for those who gave their labor and as a representative of a people who sought to represent themselves. An advocate extraordinaire, a nationalist, a politician and patriot, a man who believed in Jamaica and served this country well. His commitment to the welfare of his people led him to initiate the formation of the People's National Party, which supported the trade union movement and spawned the National Workers' Union. Along with his cousin and national hero, Sir Alexander Bustamante, he laid the foundation for our democratic traditions.
In 1958, Mr. Manley was a strong supporter of the Federation of the West Indies, a political union between Jamaica and 9 other Caribbean countries.
One of the most talked about issues will remain Jamaica's withdrawal from the West Indies Federation and the role of Norman Manley, who was a strong advocate of the Federation. When Sir Alexander Bustamante declared that the opposition Jamaica Labour Party would take Jamaica out of Federation, Norman Manley called a referendum unprecedented in Jamaica to let the people decide. We all know the results of the referendum, but we also know that it was Mr. Manley himself who led the team that negotiated Jamaica's independence from Britain. Norman Manley served this country with utmost devotion and distinction and was an instrumental figure in the shaping of Jamaica. He loved and believed in the Jamaican people and our ability to overcome challenges and to make a lasting imprint on the world.
Through his actions, national hero, the Right Excellent Norman Manley, helped shape modern-day Jamaica, which has made Jamaicans more secure and more confident. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Marlon Samuels.
The National Water Commission, NWC, is moving to impose water restrictions in all areas served by drought-affected supply systems. The NWC says the prohibition order will take effect on July 9 and remain in force until further notice. Under the order, persons must refrain from watering of gardens, lawns, grounds, and farms, refilling tanks, ponds, or swimming pools, and or for use other than normal domestic services, washing of vehicles by the use of a hose, watering or washing roadways, pavements, paths, and garages, any purpose which may require the use of considerable or excessive quantity of water. Under the order, offenses are punishable by a fine or imprisonment for up to 30 days. Executive Director of the Scientific Research Council, SRC, Cliff Riley, says Jamaica needs a national research and development fund. He says this will aid in developing our own technology instead of just consuming or utilizing imported products and services. Dr. Riley says Jamaicans possess the knowledge to create technology, but there has been no great push to translate the data and knowledge into viable commercial development.
We are nowhere where we should be as it relates to science and technology as drivers of innovation. And we are nowhere where we are supposed to be as it relates to the use of research that drives development.
Dr. Riley says funding for salaries, utilities, and monies in the private sector to streamline their services and products should not be confused with funding for national research and development.
Funding research and development is having dedicated financial resources that go towards particular priorities highlighted by the country. That is how you finance R&D. So paying salaries or financing SRC, financing the Ministry of Agriculture, Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, financing an activity at Red Stripe, that is not funding R&D at a national level. So funding has continued to be a major issue. Greater collaboration is required indeed because there are a number of funding pools at the National Health Fund, Environmental Foundation of Jamaica that finance activities. And there are so many different organizations and entities that offer research financing, but they have never come together to establish a National Research and Development Fund.
The SRC boss says research must be motivated by national interest.
It has to be, hey, these are the priorities of our country. These are the areas we're going to directly the financing we have towards to see if we can have some advancement there. So collaboration continues to be a major issue because a lot of institutions still operate in a silo. We're still rushing as academic institutions and research institutes to see who can publish first, as opposed to see how we can partner together to see how we can move that knowledge, that information we have to a viable intellectual property piece that can be commercialized.
Dr. Riley also notes the lack of investment infrastructures to support research.
You can't do advanced research using equipment from the 1960s because the information you have, the data that you have in terms of the science and technology changes based on advancement and access to more refined technologies.
The SRC executive, who was speaking at a recent JIS think tank session, says all funding and investment in research must be laid out in a scientific research council policy paper, which is being developed. A new special team has been established to target the gangsters believed to be behind the majority of the almost 700 murders recorded across the island since the start of this year. Writing in the latest edition of the Jamaica Constabulary Force Orders, Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson says the police and the Jamaica Defense Force have established what he dubbed a special purpose task force to target gangsters. According to Anderson, the task force has been formed through a partnership between the JCF's Specialized Operations Unit and the Combat Support Battalion of the JDF. It has been designed to combat criminal gangs, organizations, and groups in Jamaica. Time now for our daily update on Forex trade and more in the Business Report with Gabriel Thompson.
In Friday's trading session, the JSE combined index advanced by 507 points to close at under 400,000 units, Overall market activity resulted from trading in 72 stocks, of which 33 advanced, 29 declined, and 10 traded firm. The junior market index declined by 14 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced 41834 Investments, AMG Packaging and Paper, and Cargo Handlers Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica, Burrito Investments, and Blue Power Group Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Variable Preference, Access Financial Services, and Derrimon Trading Company Limited. Lasco Manufacturing Limited was the volume leader with 18.6 million units, followed by Derrimon Trading Company Limited with 14.4 million units and Mailpack Group Limited with 3.4 million units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Friday, July 3 ended trading at $142.20. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $106.32. The pound sterling traded for $179.56, and the euro ended trading at $160.13. Oil prices were mixed on Monday, with Brent crude edging higher, supported by tighter supplies and positive economic data, while U.S. benchmark WTI futures dropped on concern that a spike in coronavirus cases could curb fuel demand in the United States. Brent crude futures rose 41 cents to $43.21 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures dropped 5 cents to settle at $40.60 a barrel. And that's it for the business report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
In regional news, Trinidad and Tobago will go to the polls on August 10. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley announced the date for the 2020 general election in the House of Representatives on Friday. The election date is 1 month shy of the full 5-year term for the People's National Movement. Trinidad and Tobago last went to the polls on September 7, 2015.
In what was expected to be the end of the term of the 35th sitting of the 5th session of the 11th Republican Parliament, before the July-August recess, the Prime Minister pulled the election date out of his back pocket.
That I have advised Her Excellency the President to dissolve this Parliament at midnight tonight. That being so, Madam Speaker, as per our Constitution and the arrangements of our acts, nomination day, Madam Speaker, would be Friday. Nomination would be Friday, 17th of July, and polling day would be August 10th, 2020.
The Prime Minister thanked the Speaker of the House for her stewardship during the last 5 years.
You have stood, normally I would say manfully, but I must say womanfully in that chair. And you have provided us with guidance, warnings, slight expulsions, but at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, it was a pleasure serving under your hand in this Parliament.
According to the Representation of the People Act, nomination day is held on a date not less than 14 days after the day of issue of the writ of election, and election day shall not be less than 21 days after nomination day. On Thursday, the PNM finalized its slate of candidates for all 41 constituencies. The UNC is contesting 39 of the seats and so far has officially named 17 candidates. Watson Duke's Progressive Democratic Patriots has indicated it will contest the 2 Tobago seats, while the Movement for Social Justice has named 4 candidates. The Congress of the People and Michaela Pandey's The Patriotic Front have stated their intent to contest the elections, while Fuad Abubakar, founder of the New National Vision, is to contest the Port of Spain South seat, and founder of the Progressive Party, Nikolai Edwards, will contest the San Fernando West seat. Karen Cozier-Phillip, TTT News.
There will be no turning back on the decision to liquidate regional carrier LIAT. Outgoing CARICOM chairman, Prime Minister Manley, recently told a conference of Caribbean community leaders that it's not an easy decision, but the regional carrier is insolvent with its high debt.
On Thursday, Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Browne pleaded with LIAT shareholder governments not to abandon the carrier and to reconsider their decision. Motley noted the region has to move on and 6 airlines are already seeking to fill the void.
Since announcements were being made earlier this week about LIAT's demise, that 6 airlines have come forward offering to fill the space. SVG Air and One Caribbean out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the chairman, I'm sure, will speak more to that. CAL, which is already an airline known to the region. Inter-Caribbean, which is an airline from the Turks and Caicos and is a successor airline to Air Turks and Caicos and has been around for over 20-something years with an extensive fleet as well. Silver, which we have asked to meet with us over the course of the next few days, and that is an airline out of the United States of America, but working within the Caribbean and between the US and the Caribbean. And of course, the Air Antilles, which is French-based, as you know, and predominantly between Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Paris, but have an interest now in working within the Southern Caribbean. We are satisfied that these 6 airlines can more than fill the immediate gap, particularly given the reduced travel within COVID.
Browne was noticeably absent from today's CARICOM meeting. Since objecting to the closure of LIAT, he has signaled plans to launch LIAT 2020 Limited as its replacement. Motley, however, urged her counterparts to stick together and call for support for the 6 carriers.
I hope that we will be able to work with them and other private sector players who have also expressed an interest to being able to see how they can work either on their own or with some of the existing players in order to be able to fill the gap, simply because governments have now to use their funds to be able to deal with health expenditure, to be able to deal with water, to be able to deal with other forms of transport, to be able to deal with the fact that our tourism sector as well as our vulnerable populations are all requiring us to hold their hands because they have come to zero revenue. Our unemployment, for the most part in the region, in some instances, it has doubled. In other instances, it has trebled. And therefore, we come to this moment not because there is pleasure in coming to this moment. We come to this moment as a matter of practical reality that governments must focus on keeping their citizens alive. Governments must focus on keeping their economies going. And if that focus can allow others to come on board and to be able to help us carry the weight, well, my people in Barbados would tell you that I live by the mantra, many hands make light work.
In the Bahamas, water sports operators are pleading with the government to speed up the process of getting them back to work after months of beach closures. Giorgio Bain reports.
With beaches and parks now reopened and tourists making their way back to the Bahamas, water sports operators remain on the shoreline. 10 Summers water sports operator Reno DeVoe Jr. told our news while he and a few others have side jobs that help them to make ends meet, he is afraid that others who depend on the industry to provide for their families may resort to more drastic measures.
The side hustle helps along with our jet ski to do on the beach, so you cut that out, then it causes a lot of chaos because jet ski operators are used to a bit of good money like through the week and through the day. So that cut is going to cause a lot of different type of crimes. Not saying we're bad people, but some people have their family to feed and some people would go to the end of the world for their family.
DeVoe is calling on authorities to simply let water sports operators know what is needed of them, as they have no issue with abiding by new rules put in place due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
It's a bit tough for us, and there's a lot of chatter going on about it, and everyone is like, hey, the beaches are open, other establishments are open, we should be open too, even if we have to go through safety precautions. They say, well, social distancing, making sure you have your mask on, where you could get you will have a fine if you're not abiding by these laws and rules.
DeVoe said those in the water sports industry feel their inability to operate is a form of punishment for the reputation they've built over the years.
I know we jet ski operators have a bad name already, so I don't know if it might be a little bit of punishment, but we ready to to listen and abide by the rules and do what we got to do to try to boost the economy and help our families and stuff.
Going on the 5th month without being able to operate, DeVoe said it's time to get back to work.
It'll help a lot if we could get the beaches open for us, where we can run our jet skis and do the parasail and banana boat. And because these businesses have a lot of employees also, so I know a lot of them are hurting, and we really need to get it going.
Reporting for R News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
In sports, the staging of the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association JAA's national championships is uncertain, as JAA's president, Dr. Warren Blake, says it may not make sense to keep it with only locally based athletes. The matter is on the agenda for the next board meeting this Wednesday, and Dr. Blake has explained that that would be the likely decision. He says given the fact that more than half of the country's senior athletes who would compete at the championships are based overseas, it means they would have to come into the island ahead of time and go into quarantine. The JAAA boss says that staging a national championship with only local-based athletes would not have been an attractive product. And over to cricket, the T20 World Cup could be postponed or cancelled. Cricket West Indies CEO Johnny Grave has admitted either decision will have a financial impact on the board. The event, which is scheduled to take place in Australia in October and November this year, is heavily in doubt, with COVID-19 still a threat globally. Mr. Grave, who said CWI hasn't yet suffered significantly as a result of COVID-19, says unlike world football's governing body, FIFA, the ICC has not made any relief funds available to any of its members. And that's the news on PBCJ. Thank you so much for watching.